I don't think I'll ever forget the sound of the fork my father dropped the moment I opened my bag and let the stack of receipts spill across the Thanksgiving table. It wasn't loud, more like a tiny metallic gasp, but it cut straight through the room, sharper than any insult he'd ever thrown at me. And he'd thrown plenty. For years, he labeled me the selfish one, the ungrateful daughter, the one who never understood how much he sacrificed. But that night, surrounded by turkey, candles, and the carefully polished lie of family harmony, I finally stopped letting him own the story. The truth is, I didn't go to Thanksgiving intending to start a war. I went because I was tired. Tired of the yearly rituals. Tired of pretending. Tired of feeling like a ghost walking through my own family's home. But mostly I was tired of the word selfish. It had followed me since childhood like a bruise that never healed. Anytime I said no, anytime I set a boundary, anytime I tried to protect myself, selfish. It was his favorite tool. A single word he wielded like a quiet blade. When I arrived that evening, I noticed how tightly everyone held themselves. My stepmother stood by the oven, smiling brightly. My younger brother avoided my eyes. Even my father seemed rehearsed, his voice warm but brittle. I took my place at the table, telling myself I could endure just one night without incident. But patterns don't dissolve just because a holiday demands peace. It happened after dinner, when plates were half empty, and the wine had begun loosening tongues. My father leaned back in his chair, looked at me with the same quiet disappointment he perfected over decades, and sighed, "You've always been so selfish." Even as a little girl, the room froze. My stepmother's hand paused mid-air with her glass. My brother swallowed quickly, as if trying to make himself disappear. I felt the familiar sting rise in my chest. That mixture of shame and anger I'd spent years untangling in therapy. But this time something inside me didn't shrink. It steadied. I reached down, unzipped my bag, and placed a thick envelope on the table. For a moment, nobody breathed. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't glare. I simply opened it, letting bank statements, printed emails, screenshots, and dated notes scatter in front of him. Years of evidence I kept, not out of spite, but out of survival. He blinked, confused. What is this? My voice surprised even me, calm, almost gentle. "These are the times you asked me for money. The times you told me you'd pay me back and didn't. The times you told me to drive across town in the middle of the night because you needed something. The times you needed me to cover bills because you forgot. The times you told me family comes first, unless I needed something. I just wanted clarity tonight." My brother's eyes widened as he picked up one receipt. "Dad, this is $2,000. You said she borrowed from you." My father's face darkened. "This is completely unnecessary," he snapped. "You're making a scene. On Thanksgiving." But I stayed calm, even as my heart pounded so hard I could hear it buzzing in my ears. "You call me selfish, Dad, over and over. You rewrite history every time we talk. I'm done letting you do that." He pointed a shaking finger at me. "You're attacking me." That word attacking almost made me laugh. For years, the attacks were subtle: guilt, manipulation, selective memory. I learned early that when someone wants control, rewriting the past is easier than accountability. My stepmother finally spoke. Her voice cracked. "I didn't know he said those things to you. I didn't know any of this happened. He didn't want you to know," I said softly. "Because if you knew the truth, he couldn't call me selfish anymore." My father slammed his fist on the table, but it lacked force. "I helped you your entire life. I put a roof over your head. And I'm grateful for that," I replied. "But being a parent doesn't mean I owe you silence." That was the moment something changed. He wasn't angry anymore, he was afraid. Not of me, but of losing the version of himself he displayed to everyone else. The receipts weren't the revenge. The truth was quiet, undeniable truth that he could no longer twist. My brother cleared his throat, for the first time in years speaking up against our father. "Dad, you always call her selfish. But everything here, it's the opposite. She's been helping you this whole time." Silence fell again, heavy, uncomfortable, honest. I gathered the receipts slowly, placed them back into the envelope, and set it in front of him. "This isn't to punish you. It's to stop the narrative. You don't get to call me selfish anymore." He didn't respond. He just stared at the envelope as if it were a live wire. I stood, thanked my stepmother for dinner, hugged my brother, and walked toward the door. My father didn't stop me. Maybe he couldn't. As I stepped outside, the cold air hit my face, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years: quiet freedom. Not the triumphant kind, not fireworks or victory. Just a soft release that comes when you finally stop carrying someone else's story on your back. I didn't get an apology. I don't expect one. But he hasn't used the word selfish since that night. And maybe that's its own kind of justice, truth spoken calmly at a table built on silence. If you want to hear more stories like this, stay close. There's always another truth waiting.